Hello, I'm Arthur Beam, and this is my wife Teresa, and this is Adventist Talk. This particular time, we are doing a pre-movie review on the movie that's the Seventh-day Adventists put out called The Hopeful.
It's about to come out. I think maybe
Yeah,
it's next weekend or something. But anyway,
right.
yeah,
But in general, the movie, if you've
it's a
seen,
modification, and this is our opinion.
Mhm,
What we think it is, it's a modification and redistribution
right,
of the 2016 SDA movie series to tell the world. And
right.
if you aren't able to go, we want you to go see the movie.
Yeah,
We want you to go see it in the theaters. We think
yeah,
that's important. But if you can't see it in the theaters, you're going to see something extremely similar on YouTube
right.
that's free.
What we
To
noticed,
tell the
yeah,
world.
in fact, we noticed a lot of the same exact scenes. So
Yeah,
it's so exact that
yeah,
side by side you could
the
tell it,
trailer,
yeah,
the trailers are just cuts from To Tell the World. I didn't see anything new in the cuts.
yeah,
But anyway, I think that they're going to put in a few extra scenes.
right,
So we're going to do a pre-movie review.
yeah.
So that is but it's not really going to be too much about the movie. It's going to we were just discussing this morning, and we were thinking,
Is it more like the philosophy
yeah.
behind the
So
movie?
if if the hopeful is anything like, Tell the World, which we think it is going to be,
Right,
we had to ask the question, where does one draw the line between telling a story
right,
that just includes, these just includes the good of a person, or just including the bad of the person? And,
where does that artist's, in air quotes, artist's interpretation
yeah,
come in so much that you're saying, where does the balance stop
yeah.
where you question how much of that is
Yeah.
correct?
Okay. There's one thing, okay, that between telling something that's true and you just exclude everything that you tell is the true part, and you exclude any of the bad. And then there is the total romanticizing of the true part.
Right,
And I think that
right,
this movie is going to actually pull it over to romanticizing it. They're not just going to take the good and
right.
focus on it. They're going to take the truth, a true story, and then super romanticize it to the point where it may not be exactly telling the truth.
Well, remember the old adage of the history, history's written by the victors, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
Churchill said
Now,
that, Winston.
I'm not necessarily saying that they're the victors, but they are the ones
Telling the story.
telling the story.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, so at what point is telling either just exclusively the pro side, or exclusively the false side, a
right,
lie? And we see this a lot in Adventists, former Adventists versus Adventists.
right,
There are those people in Adventism that only, they've only been told the good stuff. So now that they're former Adventists, they're going to just focus on Ellen White's bad side. And there are many people out there now that are saying she's a complete fraud, and that
right.
there was nothing good in her motives, that she was
She was a sight case from the
yeah,
beginning
and a total
and a
fraud.
manipulator and a fraud
Yeah.
and
And they even say one of the greatest frauds in Western civilization.
right.
And then there are those people that would say, well, Ellen White was good, and she had her bad,
Yeah,
she had
she's
her
just
flaws.
human and she
She's
just
just
has her
human. Mhm.
flaws. Yeah,
And I would say most Adventists believe this.
yeah.
But this movie, I would say, um, only exclusively, I mean, I would say it's far, far to the right of being balanced. And it is wanting to tell a story of only the good.
I personally don't go to the point of saying they're lying about anything.
Yeah.
I think that they just leave out so much of the story that that's why we're saying, at what point do you say, oh, okay, now you're infringing, you're creeping over to not telling the truth because you left out so much of the story.
are the writers of the hopeful sitting on a throne of lies.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
this is why this is important, because we are seeing the effects of this. You know, our generation especially is seeing the effects of this because, you know, for generations we were brought up with this romanticized view of our nation, that our nation was only good, and that George Washington was just such a super guy. And then there was, you know, all
Lincoln
of our,
was perfect.
yes.
Yeah.
And then we've created this fantasized and romanticized view of our nation's history and our nation's heroes.
Right.
And what has happened now is that it, because of the internet, because of a generation that's just trying to do something new, has uncovered all these flaws in our heroes.
Right.
And they're going to the opposite, and they're so upset and
Yeah.
feel like that they've been lied to,
Mhm.
that they are going to the extremes and tearing down monuments and scoffing at them.
Right.
Because, you know, we did have founding fathers that were slave owners, and we
Right.
did have you know, I remember with uh, Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, boy, they pulled out all
Yeah.
the things he did bad and, you know, stuff it in our face. And then
Right.
the same thing with JFK Jr. Or
That's
I mean
right.
JFK, sorry,
JFK. Yeah.
JFK. You know, our presidents, you know, they pull out, and every single person, all these people are going to have all kinds of
And
skeletons in
so
the
what's the
closet.
question with that?
Mhm.
The question is, they did some bad things. No question.
Right.
This is where the original question we asked in the beginning is, at what, where's the balance maybe?
Yeah.
Where does it push it over before you say, okay, that's just a bad person, period?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they've done a couple nice things. Everything
Mhm.
they've done is,
Yeah, because when we only tell one side of the story, we are setting ourselves up for people saying we're lying,
right,
and for people for creating people who will scoff later. And
right,
we want to juxtapose this with a Catholic movie that just came out, Cabrini. Then it was about a Mother
right.
Cabrini, and again, they made her more beautiful than she was in real life. And the movie very much
Yeah.
romanticized her. And again, you know, we're not just picking on Adventists. We have
No,
to be
it's a
careful.
general, that's a
Yeah,
general question to you, really. It's a real question, is at what point does it make a person or somebody you look at bad?
yeah,
When are they the villain instead of the hero?
right.
Uh, you know, it's a
Yeah.
real question.
We have to learn to deal with people fairly. And how do we do that?
Yeah.
How do we get to decide?
Where's
You
that
know,
tipping point?
that because the first thing is we got to tell it fairly. And the
Yeah.
second point is who gets to decide who's
Yes.
telling it fairly.
Mhm.
I mean, it's really a difficult situation. Um, whose history do you believe?
That's right.
You know, in history, there it was Emperor Constantine.
Hmm.
And according to some of the Adventists, he was a rotten guy that was, and not just Adventists, lots of people believe that Emperor Constantine was a rogue, a
Right.
murderer,
That's
a
right.
killer.
Right.
And we've
He
read
was
like,
an emperor, though. Let's,
yeah. And then you've got biographies of Constantine that are just lovely, saying,
Mhm.
I mean, Eusebius, a contemporary of him, just lavished praise on him. And then
Mhm.
you've got some beautiful, beautifully written Greek autobiographies written by Greek people and or person, and that have really thrilled. And then the Eastern part of Christianity considers him a saint. And yet you will find people in America that just think he's terrible. So who do you believe?
Right. 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 Exactly.
And when we decide who gets to be the good guy and the bad guy, do we do it by democracy vote?
Yeah. Who gets to vote? Who
Yeah.
gets to vote? Who's qualified to vote? Who's qualified to look at Constantine
or Mother
or
Cabrini
Maria
or Ellen
Cabrini
White.
or Ellen White and say, uh, no, they're over 51%, so they're evil.
Yeah. And another thing is, it's really funny when you look at history. The scholars all say, well, we cannot allow people who lived contemporaneously to the person decide because they're
Ridiculous.
too close. We need to back up and let other people later who've never ever met them and don't know anything except for
And think about what they're saying. Then they're saying that the photographers that were embedded in World War II taking pictures and writing stories
yeah, that's right.
aren't to be listened to. They're liars. We got to listen to people now in the
Yeah.
21st century about World War. It doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense, really.
Yeah. So and then, okay, so now let's say we do have the facts. Let's say
Right.
that we got all the facts about the person.
Mhm.
Then how many good things that they did compared to how many bad things are we going to allow for
Right.
them to be a good person?
Right.
And then we've got a value judgment on how bad the stuff are
Right.
that are really bad because
Yeah, that's right.
you know, in our world, being a Nazi or being a bigot is, or being intolerant is like the worst sin you can have. And if you go back, you know, 200 or 300 years ago, it was if you told a lie,
That's right.
if you you know, telling a lie would be a super character flaw. Telling committing adultery.
Mhm.
Um,
All we have to do is look at Biden and Trump right now to see how demonizing people who really knows about either one of them? I
yeah,
mean, you have to look at what they've actually done. What
yeah.
have they actually done?
Yeah, but I mean, even everybody gets to judge that according to what they believe is right. So
Yeah, and it's tough.
and so this is what we've done. When you have somebody so super demonize somebody, then
Mhm.
you get an what is it, equal and opposite reaction,
Yeah,
where
the
you have people sanctize
physics.
them.
That's
And
right.
so
That's
we've
right.
got to stop doing this. We've got to stop not real everybody's flawed. And at what point do we say that
Right. And you know, there's a couple instances nowadays that are crime are Ukraine. What about Ukraine? What about Russia and Ukraine? Who do we listen to? What about Israel? What about Gaza Strip? Who do
yeah,
you listen to?
yeah.
What history do you listen to? Everybody has history and everybody says their authority on it.
Yeah. Well, you've got a you've got a big problem with Israel because what has happened, I think, is that the media has been so pro-Israel. It has, you know, we have tried to make that particular um, nation into God's people to the point where no one would ever say anything wrong,
Right.
nothing wrong about them. And so what's happened is uh, we've created a backlash against that. And
Right.
now we've got a bunch of anti-Semitic stuff out there because they realize, wait a minute, you know, the nation of Israel hasn't been perfect. And what Israel, there's nothing wrong with saying that. We haven't been perfect. So it's so difficult because we're creating backlashes
That's right.
and hatred by taking a position that is not truthful about how people
And
really
what makes
are.
it even more complicated is Hollywood has made these clear good guys, clear bad guys, to
Yeah.
where I think people get to where they start trying to look at the world through those glasses, and it's like it doesn't work that way. It just simply doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I guess Hollywood has set us up to think that if the good guy, whatever that is, makes a mistake, that he's no longer a good guy. We don't even allow for, I mean, look at King David in the Bible.
Yeah,
I mean, was he a good guy or a bad guy?
right.
Because I mean, he did some,
The whole focus is on him killing a guy and stealing his wife.
Mhm.
That's what the focus of a lot of the stories are. But you look at the history of King David, and he was, remember who
Yeah.
came through King David?
Yeah.
Christ came through King David. So
Where do we find that
where's that
line?
line?
Mhm.
So when you're talking about the movie now,
Mhm.
and you go back to the movie that's going to come out, is where do you find that line? Where do you find the line of truth? Um,
Yeah, when we actually do our movie review, we're going to, I mean, the actual movie, because
right.
we don't know how much of the hopeful is taken directly from Tell the World.
It appears a lot of it,
It appears
but there
like a
could
lot.
be parts of it that they saved just for stitching together the contiguous movie itself. So
Okay, so we looked at Tell It to the World. We reviewed that movie. I'd actually seen that years and years ago, and that's the reason I was wondering, because when I saw the trailer
mhm.
to The Hopeful, I went, those people look very
Yeah,
familiar.
I've seen him somewhere
So
before.
I typed in, wait a minute,
Mhm.
Tell the World, and it was like that every single scene in the trailer is directly from that. So
Right, right.
I immediately knew, okay, this must just be a revamping of that same movie. But anyway,
It's definitely a romanticized version
yeah, of Ellen
of
White.
Ellen White.
As a matter of fact, we're going to put up a picture right now that shows you Ellen White in the movie and an actual picture of Ellen White. And we would say that as and everybody romanticizes, all movies do this. They always make the character, more beautiful. But I would say just take this as an icon of
Yeah,
the real Ellen versus the movie version. Just
right,
terribly romanticized.
right.
And you know, as well-intentioned as Adventists are about this movie, and like I said, we're not trying to pick on Adventists because
Mhm.
Catholics, everybody does it. Everybody romanticizes their heroes, and every movie, like Luther, this the movie of Luther,
Yeah,
he was a big, fat, horribly ugly man, and they had him this striking,
yeah.
young man.
Strapping young man. It's like,
Yes, so at least in the one we've seen,
right.
the movie Luther, that I really like actually.
Yeah.
But so we're not trying to pick on Adventists, but we just want to caution you as you go and see the movie. And we want to caution Adventists especially that it is actually might be doing a dangerous thing, because when their children or when converts come into the church and they begin to read Ellen White's writings and studying that period of Adventism and what it really was, it might cause a backlash
Mhm.
against this fantasy of her and the
Right,
early church.
right. So
And that's all we wanted to
that's
do.
all. Yeah. So stay tuned for the real movie review. Once it comes out, we will do a thorough one of the actual movie once it gets here. And thank you for watching. And we're coming up to some super exciting Adventist talk.
Yeah.
So
And the
stay
next week it
tuned.
should be really good. God bless and
Yes, yes.
be holy.
Be holy. Thank you.